On Unpoured Perspectives today, we have the Tabletop Tasting guys, and we cover a few topics, including a new Canada Corner. But before we get started, just one housekeeping item. We understand and appreciate that people have their own political viewpoints, but on Unpoured Perspectives, for the purposes of our exploration of whiskey on this podcast, politics do not exist. We talk whiskey and we focus on the whiskey, and that's it. Today in Canada Corner, we discuss some Gretzky whiskey. All of us know the Gretzky Distillery team, and so we might be biased, but we believe they deserve our support for the incredible quality whiskey they are creating. It is some of the best whiskey in Canada right now. They are also genuinely awesome people. And now, on to episode 3 of Unpoured Perspectives.
Hello, and welcome to the third episode of Unpoured Perspectives. I am Kevin Dundee.
I am Joel, also known as Scratch and Scotch.
And we have Tabletop Tastings with us. I'll let them I'll let them introduce themselves.
My name is Les.
You can interrupt yourselves too, but
yeah.
I think
we do that as well. I'm Steve, and I'm Les. And this is Tabletop Tastings. Yeah, that is.
Missing from our roster today is Bobby. He's under the weather. Poor guy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I hope he feels better soon, man. Sounds like he's really struggling over there.
Yeah.
Rub some scotch on
that.
Pour some whiskey out for Bobby there.
Hey, Kevin, I've had a few people reach out. They want to know a couple of things from our last podcast. Okay, so number one, right in behind you, there's a bunch of circular things kind of sitting down towards the ground there. What do you got hiding back there?
What do you mean? So, you mean these circular things?
No, the ones just above that. Just above that.
So I played disc golf. And I have a collection of disc golf discs.
I would say what you have is more than a collection. I've dabbled in the disc golf world myself, and I found about 3 to 4 will typically suffice for the average game. What you've got over there is a monstrosity of a collection.
Yeah,
Kevin's
ultimately,
the Tiger Woods of disc golf.
Yeah, it's I'm a collector, and it's a bit of a problem. I have to really restrict myself when it comes to collecting of things, because disc golf discs are like $30 or less, or sometimes even $12, right? It's very easy to just be like, oh, I want to try this new one. Here's $12, and then all of a sudden you're at 90 discs.
So Brantford has a really nice course at Mohawk Park. Have you been down here and played this one?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Fantastic. Next time you're down playing, you'll have to hit us up and we can grab a dram together.
Definitely. I actually really enjoy Christie Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And I often take a dram with me to Christie Lake and walk around.
Does that improve your game or
place? It does, actually. It does. It definitely does. Same with golf.
Yeah.
Same with golf.
Well, I wanted to get that housekeeping out of the way because, our viewers wanted to know.
It's very important.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about tabletop tastings. You guys have just joined us, and I think Joel has some questions for you.
Yeah, I got a few rapid fire questions for you guys. Ready for this?
Yeah. We were born ready for events like this.
All right, so this kind of spans across a couple different genres. A little bit of it is Canadiana, some of it to do with spirits, some of it to do with board games. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, bourbon finish or sherry finish?
Sherry. Yeah, sherry, 100%. Sherry. I could live in sherry all day long.
Computer gaming or console gaming?
Ooh, console for me.
I got to go console as well. There's a few like RTS games really work best on computer. Everything else console. I'd rather be sitting on a couch, laying back, relaxing on a big screen.
Can I answer these questions too?
Hey, man. Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
Bourbon finished, and I don't game.
Okay. Hot dogs or hamburgers?
Ooh, hamburger.
Yeah, burgers all day long. Cheese,
Burgers.
bacon.
Yeah.
A good smash patty. Oh, brioche bun. Yeah, let's let's get some grilling now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down. Highland or Glencairn?
Ooh, Highland for me.
Yeah, Glencairn all the way.
Interesting. Country music or 90s rock?
Oh, nah, that's not even a. Is that even a question?
That's a real question. Come on now.
Rock all the
Oh,
way.
90s rock.
90s rock.
Yeah.
Every day.
Good. McDavid or Matthews?
Matthews. I'm a Matthews guy.
Oh,
What
that's
are those?
controversial right there. What
Yeah.
are those?
I don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
I know their names, but that's it.
I'm
Cards
a
or
Leafs fan.
dominoes?
Don't hold it against me. So Matthews, like I don't think you can't really compare the two, other than they play for Canadian teams because they play such a different game. McDavid has to carry that team, and he does all the time. Whereas Matthews, he's out a few times through the season, and Toronto can just keep going.
I feel like this
all they do is-
question is the most controversial that we've ever
Yeah,
had.
because okay, here's a question. Do you think the Leafs will win in our lifetimes?
Oh, shut up.
I'm not answering that. Cards or dominoes?
Cards. I gotta go cards.
Yeah, I'll go with cards as well. It's got more versatility.
All right, here's another divisive one. An okay whiskey or a good rum?
A good rum. I've fallen in love with rums, and I got to thank SOS for that because prior to doing the tasting events, my experience with rum, I thought it was Jack. What's the? Oh, you're gonna
Captain Morgan.
Captain Morgan. Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Morgan.
Like
Yeah.
I thought rum was Captain Morgan,
Taylor Jerry.
and that was my experience with it. But this has opened my eyes to how amazing some rums are. I've fallen in love with that world.
Yeah, if I
Okay,
see some just okay whiskeys on the shelf and there's like a really nice rum, I'm gonna actually go for the rum now.
Very cool.
Yeah, me too.
I know you, Steve, especially. We've had these conversations, so
Yeah.
that's really encouraging to see. Okay, I got two more. All right, ready? Guns N' Roses or Metallica?
Metallica.
I don't really listen to either of them, but the Metallica's got some really good songs.
All right, last one. Monopoly or a kick in the shins?
A kick in the shins. That odd lineup, kick after kick after kick after kick after kick. Monopoly
is popular.
Monopoly is popular, but that game was designed to break up families. I think the divorce rate across the globe is only as high as it is because Monopoly is such a terrible game that every copy of that game should be destroyed immediately and never touched again.
Yeah, there's people have PTSD because I'll talk to them and say, "Hey, we do a show where we pair board games and whiskey," and they're like, "Oh, I don't like board games." Like, what do you mean? Oh, we played Monopoly. They have PTSD from playing Monopoly as kids with their family.
And then the other side of that is I actually tried to play Monopoly again just a couple years ago and forgot how much maths are in that game. It's not necessarily easy to to mortgage properties and yada 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 if you're not up to speed on or fluent in the math world. Which for me, it's been 20 years since I've been in school, right? So I haven't had to think too much about it.
Math is difficult.
Math is hard. Math is hard.
Yeah.
Terrible game.
Well, I think we got to know you guys just a little bit better from those few questions.
I love it. That was great.
Yeah.
That's good. That's awesome. I have a few other questions actually. Well, first of all, Joel, are you a board gamer or do you game with your family? Do you play cards? Do you do?
So my in-laws are from the East Coast and they introduced us to a game called Aggravation. I've played it with Steve one time.
Yeah.
And
sounds like Monopoly.
It's got an addictive quality to it.
Yeah, it's much better than Monopoly.
It's literally just actually I have the board right here. Ready? I'm gonna pull it up.
You came prepared, man.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
Whoa.
you've got a bunch of little divots. You use marbles, and I've seen versions of this game done with dice, but we actually play it with cards, and certain cards will do certain special things. So when you get dealt your hand, there is an element of strategy to it, which I think separates it from just blind chance from throwing the dice. So we play it probably 2 or 3 times a week. and everybody that we've introduced this game to have either stayed for hours on end playing the game, went and bought their own boards, or asked to come over and play it again another time. So it's a highly addictive game. It's very good.
I agree.
That's
It's a
awesome.
fun game.
That's awesome. So my question for TT here is best 10-player board game and why?
Best 10-player board game and why? So I've got a couple. So one of them would be, and Steve's not going to like this one because it's called Hues and Cues. But Hues and Cues is basically this giant board of different colored paint swatches. So it covers the entire gambit. And one person has to describe or give a clue, hence Hues and Cues, but give a cue to say, maybe it's Barney. And then everyone else has their little pawn piece and tries to put it on the color that they think most closely represents the clue or the cue that you're trying to give. Fun little party game, plays really, really quickly. Another one I like is Suro. Suro is this little puzzle board that each person gets a piece of the puzzle, puts it down, and then their little token follows the path. And the whole idea is last man standing, and all the paths will eventually either lead into each other or off the board. So whoever stays on there the longest is the victor for that. And it's great because it plays in like 15 minutes, and it's a lot of fun. And there's zero teach to it. It's just play a tile, your guy follows the path, and then be the last one standing.
Yeah, that is a good game. Hues and Cues. The designer of that game has a special place in the Antarctic Circle that he can take his game and stay.
So why is that, Steve? Why is
Monopoly,
that not a great
right?
game for you?
Yeah, it's in the same level as Monopoly for me. So I am colorblind. So some like colors like reds and greens, and like I don't see a difference between the hues and
Steve actually said to me once, "How would you know that you're not colorblind?" And I said, because every one of these squares to me looks a little bit different, and to you they don't. That's not a good game for Steve.
Special place that he can play.
Here we are just picking on Steve's disabilities.
Exactly.
So my favorite is Avalon. Although I don't know if you would classify it as a board game, but it's definitely like a sort of a bluffing game. I don't know if you guys have played it.
I haven't played it. What's high level overview of it?
Avalon is basically you are a knight of the round table, and you are fighting Morgana or Mordred, or and you basically convince people to go on missions, and then there's hidden evil people amongst the group, sort of like One Night Werewolf.
Okay, so it's kind of like one of those games where everyone's got a role. Nobody else knows what role each person is. Exactly. Is there a little round with it where you kind of close your eyes, wake up, and
That's exactly it. It's a slightly better version than Resistance. So it's basically, I think in Resistance you have the one side that has information. In Avalon, both sides have a little bit of information, and so it sort of balances the game a lot better.
Yeah, social deduction done well.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, it's a really fun game. But you have to kind of really enjoy those bluffing games. If you don't like bluffing, then you'll hate it.
Any party game is gonna make it or break it with the people that are there playing with you. You can have a fantastic game or a time playing a party game as long as everyone's involved. If everyone's not involved and doesn't want to necessarily play, then it just goes south quick. Yeah.
Or if you got somebody with a dominant personality, right? Somebody with a dominant personality can take over those and kind of ruin it for everybody else. But that's cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
What about best 2-player board game?
So best 2-player board game, and I think Steve and I will probably agree on this, but Sky Team.
Yeah.
Sky Team is just this simple game where you've got an aircraft and you've got to land it over 7 or 8 rounds. And what's neat about it is that you're working together, but during the actual gameplay, you can't talk to each other. So you each have to make decisions based on dice rolled. But you hope the other person is in sync kind of with where you are. And between rounds, you can talk all you want and strategize, but when it comes down to playing, you can't talk and you've got to land at this plane. And it's such a great, simple, fun game. Beautifully done, beautiful game. Amazing. Sky Team.
Yeah.
Have to check
Nice.
that out. Sounds like fun.
It's an awesome game.
I think for me, mine would be Citadels.
I haven't played Citadels, but I know it's well regarded.
Citadels in the 2 or 3 player version, because it supports 2 to 8 players, so it can be a lot of fun. You can support a wide group of people, but more than 3 people, I think you end up, it's just like a shot in the dark, when you're trying to sort of attack people. But for a 2 player, like you are like really trying to get into the mind of the person that's sitting across from you, and determine which character they chose, versus which one you think they will chose their, or which, I guess, which one you think they are trying to make you think that like it gets like that. I know that all of that kind of, and it can be a lot of fun. Basically, just for the viewers, Citadels is a game where you're trying to build a city, and you are different characters. And each round, you get to choose a new character, like a thief or an assassin or the king or a magician or a architect. And each character has different abilities, and you basically get to like take gold or build a city. And the first to 8 cities, first to 8 districts in the city wins the game. So it's a really sort of simple story, but the mechanic at the 2 or 3 person number of players is what makes it really interesting.
There is a game that Steve and I have been looking at recently called Misfit Heroes. And it's a card game, but it's pretty neat because you've got 82 different heroes, and then you've got 82 different careers, and one of the cards is clear, so it stacks on top of the other, so you can create these random roles of unique heroes and careers. Like there was a frog that
was a gangster,
gangster frog, or a fiery knight,
mermaid.
Yeah, that's right. So it looks really, really cool because you can build all these different roles, and then you got to play your cards in your tableau. But there's so many good games. And in fact, I think there's nobody, because we talked about Monopoly. You ask people, do you like board games? And they say no. And why not? Well, it's because they played Monopoly or they played Solitaire, some of the classic games. Yeah. I honestly don't think there's there's a person out there that doesn't really like board games. I just think people haven't been introduced to the board game that's best suited for them. And that's one thing that I take great pleasure in. I have a very large assortment of board games because there's so many different types, and there's so many different personalities and way people like to do things, that you can tailor a board game to an individual and find something that's guaranteed there will be something that somebody likes out there for those that think they don't like board games. They just haven't been introduced to the game. That's perfect for them.
Exactly.
Sound like me talking about rum.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's a rum for everybody. Don't worry.
There is.
So I think I have one sort of last general question for you guys, because we still have a few other topics to get into, and we'll find out more, and we'll continue finding out more about you guys throughout the topics. But I want to know, what is your secret to social media success?
Are we successful on social media?
Yeah, that's a frustrating one, because sometimes you think, hey, we're doing pretty good. And like one video will get a whole bunch of hits and people are sharing it and all that kind of stuff. But then like your next one will get like 25 views. So I don't know that there's necessarily something that we do specific, other than we're uploading every day.
Yeah, and I think that's really the key to growth, is I call it kind of the shotgun effect, or the pray and spray.
Yeah.
It's really, the more darts you throw out there, the more things that you're going to hit. And we found that our main traction just seems to be from consistency. So we post a video every single Tuesday. And since we launched our board game whiskey pairing channel about a year and a half ago, we haven't missed a Tuesday. Every single Tuesday, we post an episode of show. And then we sprinkle a few other things in there occasionally as well. But with our shorts, and this is something we've really been focused on, really, I think it was probably March of last year, around that time frame, that we started doing the shorts. But every single day, we post a short. Now, we haven't been as perfect on that. Sometimes it's just 6 a week. But our goal is to really try to put a short out every single day. because you never know when one's going to take off. And we've had a couple do really, really, really well. And then to Steve's point, we try an idea. Like I thought, hey, let's try to make a trailer for one of our episodes and see how that goes. And the trailer video did terrible. We had like 19 views on it.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of our other stuff, we average about 6, 7, 8, 900 views on YouTube. We've had some in 20,000. We've had one do close to 1 million views on it. But it's really just push out content every single day, get something out there, because you never know what's going to take off and what's going to do well.
Yeah, and so our main format that we're using is YouTube, but I do put out on like TikTok and Instagram. I'm not as not every day on those ones. I kind of select which ones I'm putting out, and we'll put those out as well. But those do seem to feed back into our YouTube channel.
The social media ecosystem, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, just regularity.
Just regularity.
Post as frequently as you can and as consistently as you can.
I think, but I do want to frame it as success. I think you guys should 100% consider yourselves successful. I mean, I certainly consider you guys very successful. I think a lot of, like, you've reached the 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, right?
Yeah. We crossed that threshold.
1,055 actually at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. But and doing so in a year and a half is actually, from what I understand, like remarkable. Like there's a lot of whiskey channels out there that took several years to get to 1,000, right? And I think I'm at like 12 or something silly,
Well, this is where I think we have a little bit of a leg up, because we've got 2 worlds that we're invested in. So I'm the board game guy. I love board games. I'm passionate about board games. So we hit up board game conventions and talk to industry experts and try to get ourselves involved in that world. Steve, I mean, I think we're both whiskey guys, but Steve really is, he's a few levels up above myself as far as his knowledge, and he cares about the story and the origins and how things are crafted and created. Whereas I just want to, let me smell it and drink it. But Steve's passionate about that, right? So we do Whisky Wonderland and we try to hit other events that way. So we've got 2 different audiences that we're both actively engaged and going after. And through our conversations with people, discover that, everyone likes, there are a lot of overlap between those worlds. There's so many people that, play board games, so many people that drink whiskey. But as of this point, to the best of my knowledge, we are the only ones actively pairing whiskey with board games, and that's the whole idea or concept of our piece. So we're the only ones doing that right now. There's lots of people, again, that drink games. Lots of people that drink whiskey and play games, but it's really that marriage of those 2 things specifically that I think we're the only ones in the space actively doing that. And it's something that as more and more people learn about it, we're getting lots of positive feedback and comments from people, and we're just having a blast, because at the bare minimum we're playing games and drinking whiskey, and that's a pretty good day regardless of how you look at it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, we love your personalities as well. Like that definitely feeds into it. You guys are 2 high energy guys, so it's a lot better than myself sometimes when I'm doing a online thing. Maybe I'm not as loud or gregarious as you guys, so I think that definitely helps to feed into some of your success there. So bravo to you too.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And again, I want to throw a little shout out to SOS. A lot of what we do, stemmed, we got the idea, towards the tail end of the pandemic, and the whiskey tasting events, I think, play a huge part in what we're doing today, because there's so many spirits out there that we had no idea existed until we got into these tasting events and got to try a wider range of products. So thank you to you as well. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, 100%.
No worries, man. Thank you for supporting us all these years. It's been awesome. I don't think you guys have missed a single event.
No,
we haven't. No.
I also want to thank you for that really great segue there, Les, because our next topic is Whisky Wonderland, which you guys attended as well. For was it the 2nd year in a row?
Yeah, this was our 2nd year going.
And Whisky Wonderland. So I went to Whisky Wonderland last year, but I just did the Saturday, the main show event. I may have done a masterclass or 2 in the day earlier that day, but this was the first time that I did, the full VIP Friday, Saturday. And I loved all of the tasting events. And there were a few that I wanted to go to, like the Ardbeg one I really wanted in, but it sold out immediately. And there was another one I really wanted into that sold out right away as well. But so thankful that they did sell out, because the events that I ended up going to were distilleries that I didn't really care about too much before, I didn't know anything about, and I came out with such a greater appreciation for how they do things and what they're doing, that I was super, super happy with every master class I attended and made it to.
Mm-hmm.
So what were your one or two favorite things, each of you from Whiskey Wonderland?
So for me, one of the biggest things in doing so, we're there because we want to see what's out there, to see what kind of things we compare with the board games that we want to put on the show. And so for me, it's a nice way to see like 40 different distillers in one place. And it was funny because when we got back, we were talking about it. I didn't even get to all the tables.
Yeah.
Like I was looking back at some of the pictures that some of the other people that had been there, and I'm like, I didn't even see those guys. Hey, I didn't even see those guys. But so for me, that's a big part of it. Just being able to try a little sample of a lot of different lineups and the master classes. I love a good story. And I know some people are like, I don't want to hear the story of yada yada yada. I love the story behind the distiller and how they came to produce what they're making and what they're putting into the bottle. To me, it just makes it much more enjoyable. So I can buy a bottle so we're here in Ontario, LCBO. I can buy a bottle from the LCBO that I've never tried, try it. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't. But if I like go to the distillery and I see how they're making it, and or I talk to the guy that's like the master distiller there and talk to them about how they're making it, what they're doing, it just takes that bottle to the next level. And it's so much more enjoyable regardless of what the end product is going to be like, whether or not I really enjoyed it or it was just, hey, that's pretty good. It just made it that much more.
So it's interesting that you say the story, because one of my favorite events that I attended there that I didn't even want to go to was Glenmorangie.
Mm.
And if I'm saying that wrong, please correct me on it. But the Glenmorangie, I had
You say everything
I
wrong,
know.
so it's okay.
That's fine. I had bought a bottle of that a couple years ago, though, and I spent $100 on the bottle. I got home and tried it, and I was like, I feel like I wasted my money. But after sitting through their session, hearing their story and what they're trying to go through and the efforts they put in to get those flavors, I'm trying that exact same bottle, but with a different set of lenses on it. And it's like, okay, I get it. I enjoy this. And they do an annual release that they call, oh, I forget the name of it now, a tale of, and they had a tale of ice cream.
Yeah.
And trying that, it's like, okay, that's really cool. So now next time they've got, their next release, a tale of whatever that ends up being, I'm keen and interested to try that. So that's one distillery that for me, I was kind of disappointed I was going to, because that's the best option of what's available. But it came out of that with a greater appreciation for it. And I'm enthusiastic now to see what they've got coming out next.
I love that. That's really good because just to bring back to SOS for a minute, when we first started, we didn't have any of those stories. We just were sampling things. One of our biggest inflection points was when we brought on a guy by the name of Ari. I'm gonna forget his last name, but he was from Three Chord. He stayed through the whole tasting, but just talked about his bottle because it was only one of 5 or 6 that we're tasting. And that ended up being the favorite bottle of the entire night. We realized that there's an extra dimension that's put in when you understand what's going into making that bottle. Was it the best distillate that night? I don't know. But it was part of the story, part of the history, part of the nerdiness of it all. It actually builds anticipation and appreciation for what you're tasting. And that's why ever since then, we've always had some representative of some sort on for all of our tastings.
Yeah, and you know what? Like just talking about that, every time you have someone there that's from the distillery,
Yeah.
it's that tasting always sticks in my head the longest.
Yeah.
There's gonna be, what do they call, like a representative? Sometimes they'll have like a rep there. And they're good. They know what they're talking about, they know their product. But when you have like the distillers, like the guys from Starlight,
Mhm.
that guy had like he's involved in the process, and you can tell, right? They have that passion behind them. It just
Yeah.
makes it so much more enjoyable.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more. What about you, Kevin?
That's
What
why
are
we're
some
at
of
every
your-
one of them.
Well, first of all, I want to know, because the Saturday event was a blur. So I want to know, did you guys make it to the Spirit for Us table?
I did. Yeah.
So I hope you remember. Yes, we definitely made it to the Spirit for Us. And one of the things that stuck out in my mind is the quality of your latest product.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And that's thoroughly enjoying it after having tried 50 other samples from other booths. Although I may have come directly from the Gold Bar booth, so I don't know. I may have given an extra little kick or check mark there for you. But
I'm
really,
okay with
really
you
enjoyed.
doing that every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think I remember like one or two people from the day. It was such a blur and such a long day, but such a fantastic day. I just remember like all the responses, being so positive, and I really enjoyed figuring out how to present our first whiskey. I think because our first whiskey is very divisive, which is, that's fine. That's really what it's. I mean, it's not there to be divisive, but I don't think we ever want to shy away from divisive flavors. Not everyone's gonna love everything, so that's fine.
Yep.
But presenting it as the most unique thing that people will try that day ended up coming across really well as well. And people, almost every single person, well, actually every single person did agree with me that it was the most unique thing that they had tried the whole day. And our new release as well had really great feedback. So that was definitely, the event was definitely my number one favorite thing for me from Whisky Wonderland.
And just
The
to piggyback
second,
off of that, one of my favorite moments was when I was up chatting with you and I got to taste your new bottle there. It was fantastic. As I was walking away, I just see a group. I'm like, hey, do you know Kevin? Do you know Kevin? He's pouring something awesome right now. And this whole group just kind of swarmed you. It was awesome.
yeah, it was one large swarm, honestly. I mean, the VIP hours were a little slower, and that was nicer. You could talk to people. But after, during the main event, 650 people total in the event is just large. Lots of people trying to get through everyone, trying
I'm
to give
curious,
everyone
Kevin,
their due moment and whatnot.
as a vendor there, how many bottles of your product did you go through?
Actually, not that much. Actually, just 2 bottles.
And that's because the pour sizes,
That's like
they were
half an ounce.
pretty tiny with the pour sizes.
Yeah. I mean, I was happy to pour like large samples for people, if they wanted, but like 95% of people didn't want large samples because they've got to
there's so
go and
much.
try 40 different distillers, right?
Yeah.
Like they want to try everything. So yeah, most people weren't dissatisfied with a small pour. And then I did have Laura. Shout out to Laura, who came back I think 4 or 5 times, and Brittany came back a couple of times as well.
Yeah.
So you remember Brittany and Laura, but you don't remember me. I'm kind of hurt, Kevin.
I'm kind of hurt, but I understand.
No, I remember you guys. I remember you guys. I mean, it's kind of like, thinking about it initially, you can't pick out individuals, but then as you mention it, like, oh yes, of course, I remember this conversation, and yada yada yada. But Laura definitely, she came back like 4 or 5 times, so it was very difficult to not remember that. And then my second favorite thing was actually just the people that you get to meet. Both the people that are attending the event with you, like the other consumers, just as you are a consumer of everyone's products, but also just like the whiskey stars, first of all, Joshua Hatton from Single Cast Nation. I really enjoyed meeting him. We sort of have a few things in common, from the independent bottling to both being Jewish, to being, that kind of stuff was just, I found we had a few things in common. And so it was a very, very lovely, quick chat meeting him. And then also meeting, Andrew from Kensington Wine Market. I have been on like 100 tastings with Andrew, but I have never met him in person. And it was really nice to get to spend some time with him, get to buy him a beer after the show and have a quick chat, along with, people like Don Livermore and, Bryce Simpson, just wonderful conversations, wonderful people, and I also have a bit of, like a sense of being starstruck, which I don't normally get, right? Like celebrities and that kind of thing, I'm normally disappointed by. But because all of these people were true and authentic people, as well as, whiskey stars, it was much more meaningful. I've often found that, if I met a celebrity, like I met Dan Aykroyd one time, and he was just so busy, couldn't, talk to me at all, or, so it was a very dismissive interaction, nothing, not his fault or anything like that, but it was a sort of a disappointing interaction for me. And this was the complete opposite. So
Yeah.
just, getting to spend the time with everyone was really wonderful.
Yeah, that's something I've found definitely in like the whiskey world. Even the what you would classify maybe as
He just disappeared.
yeah, it just disappeared.
That's right.
As whiskey does around here. Um, yeah, I do find that a lot of them are just very approachable. And if you, give me a little bit more. And if you have questions or you just, kind of want to geek out with them a little bit, they're more than happy to do so. And we did
Yeah.
find that at the board gaming as well. We went to Gen Con last year, and like we met designers
Yeah.
of game, like really huge popular games, and they would take 5 minutes and chat with us. There's 75,000 people around us, and yet they took like 5 minutes to talk to us for a
That's
few
awesome.
minutes, right? Like it was
Absolutely awesome.
really
Yeah.
cool. And so
Yeah.
I found that whiskey and the board games, there's that similarity there as well. All of us just seem to be geeks that really enjoy those two things and are more than happy to just sit back and talk about it for hours.
Did you guys get to spend any time after the event in the different hotel rooms that were like, really drinking it up?
No. So we actually ended up, so the six of us, our wives and us, we stayed at a Airbnb just off site. But so my Saturday night, I needed to go home because it ended with Elevation, with Bobby and myself. And so we had a number of tequilas, and then Steve needed to go lay down.
I did make it to a room with and had some incredible samples, but my wife, it was a long day for her, so we only stuck it up for about half an hour or so, and then went back to retire.
I mean, I was in 407 at the end as their, legendary 407 every night. And the Saturday night after the event, we went to the rooftop bar at the Andes, partied up with Tim Wilson and Francois and some of the other guys and Don.
Yeah.
That's right. And then also ended up back in the hotel room, and just really having a lot of fun. And these hotel rooms weren't perfect, but it wasn't about the hotel room. It was again about getting to spend the time with the people there, just really having a great time. Joel, did you want to talk about Spaber and advertising, or did you?
Well, I just want a couple of things about Whisky Wonderland as well. So, for myself, the highlight, I think, was the Beam lunch. Getting to sit and chat with Stephen Beam and our Canadian representative Jennifer. That was a lot of fun for multiple reasons. Number one, I think it really lent itself to us because we were close to the front of the table. There were some issues with being able to hear the presenters as you went a little bit further back on the table. But Stephen struck me as just this really cool, down-to-earth guy. Just enjoyable to chit-chat with, and he had some really cool stories. I know we were talking about the stories earlier and how it really helps to build anticipation for whatever dram you're about to have. I'm not a bourbon guy in any way, shape, or form, but having Yellowstone samples along with his stories and some of the fantastic food that we were enjoying, it really built an experience that I was really happy to say that I had. So for me, that was one of the highlights. Of course, great interactions during various master classes, as well as the whole Saturday event just blew me away. Like the food that we had sort of as a buffet style.
Yeah, the sushi there was top notch. The sliders were fantastic.
Slider, oh man,
The
that stuff was
poutine.
great.
The
poutine,
poutine. It's all so good.
Yeah.
Amazing, absolutely amazing stuff. So, yeah, totally enjoyed that. We got to chit chat with Todd from Elevation. I think that's what Steve was alluding to there. I'm not sure if you remembered I was there, but I was. So.
Oh, I know.
But no, we got to hang out with him down by the fire pit, and then he moved his venue down to the bar area and made some mixed tequila drinks down there, and it was a lot of fun just hanging out with you guys and having a few very tasty tequilas. So those were my highlights there.
What did everyone get with their VIP ticket? Like Steve and Joel and
So I had a bottle of scotch from 1983, and I keep forgetting the name of it.
Was it the Dallas Dew?
Yes, that's it, the Dallas Dew. And so it's like the distiller is closed. You'll never get that again. So that was like a no-brainer for me. I'm like, okay, I have to just try this. It was a pretty small sample, so it wasn't. I didn't come away and be like, oh man, that was the greatest thing ever. But just that story behind it of I'll never be able to try that ever again. So I kind of had to go with that. My wife got the Worthy Park, no, Highland Park. And it was a really neat bottling too. And she actually liked it. She doesn't like whiskey. She enjoyed that. And then it was funny. So we went around to the Ardbeg table, and the VIP that they were pouring, I sent a message to Bri because I wanted to find out what it was. And I can't figure out what it was yet. But anyways, so Carrie does not like scotch. She doesn't like whiskey, all that kind of thing. But she really enjoyed that Ardbeg because she said it was like it had that smoky peaty, like that smoke to it. She's like, I always talk about campfire in a bottle type of thing. But then she said it was gone pretty quick and it like mellowed right out. And she's like, I really love the flavor that lingered at the end. So I would love to buy her a bottle of that to be able to try it again. Yeah.
what did you try, Joel?
I got to try the Ardbog. I think you had the same one there, Les.
I sure did. So
Yeah.
and it had a dinosaur on the label of it, I think, did it? Like a T-Rex or something like that.
Yeah.
I've got a huge soft spot for Ardbeg. It was probably the first scotch that I ever had and really enjoyed. So anytime I see some on your table there, but anytime I get to enjoy some Ardbeg, I'm a huge fan of it. And that Ardbeg from the VIP ticket, and what was the name of it? You said it's called Ardbog?
Ardbog. Yeah. I'll send you all the details on it because I took some good pictures of that box.
I would love that, and it was fantastic. Huge.
Now, since we're talking about Ardbeg quite a bit, have any of you tried this?
We have our
I
bottle.
haven't-
We have not opened it yet.
I haven't picked up my bottle yet either.
No,
I
It's-
definitely have one, and I'm super looking forward to it.
it's very good. It's
Mm.
really, really good.
Yeah, I've seen
yeah.
lots of notes coming up on our Discord about it.
Yeah.
Just to be clear for our listeners, for people listening on Spotify or something like that, Joel just held up a bottle of the SOS pick of Secret Isla.
TWA.
So yeah, technically our name is not on this bottle.
Hmm.
But we did help to pick this one. As Bobby keeps reminding me, he did that without me. That's all right. TWA, so Igor from Heads and Tails, this is one of his brands. And he says, for the friends of Heads and Tails. So I'd like to think we fall into that category. It is a Secret Isla, distilled 2017, bottled 2023, matured in a hogshead. By Secret Isla, we're definitely referring to this guy here.
No, definitely not.
No.
The illustrious Igor. I think I think we're coming up against a time here. We do have a hard stop. So maybe what we do is we move straight on into Canada Corner.
Okay.
And for our listeners, Canada Corner is a new thing that we're going to be doing, basically featuring a Canadian distillery or two or three, depending upon what we have that week for the people on the show. And I also would like for Canadian distilleries to send us advance notice of releases, because I'd also like to be able to speak to releases to make people aware. So if you have something coming out or something that was very recently released, send me an email. We'll get it up on our next recording, so that we can make people aware of what's coming out from Canadian distilleries. For instance, one of the recently released whiskeys that I'm aware of is Last Straw just recently released a malted corn whiskey called Scorn. And that's a lovely whiskey. It's actually a re-release of one of his most awarded whiskeys ever, and it's quite rare because you won't find malted corn products very often at all.
So Kevin, I am so excited that you brought up this topic. And this for me also ties back directly to Whisky Wonderland, because this is one of those events I did not want to attend. Options were limited, so I ended up there. But it's one of the ones that I'm the most excited that I actually got to make it to.
I got you. Yeah.
Is John Sleeman and Sons, maker of Springbank. So this is really Sleeman's, Sleeman's Canada. They make beer, they make pop, they make, all sorts of stuff. But their whiskey distillery opened up just like 3 years ago. They started selling whiskey, and they've thrown a lot of money at this to do things correctly. So they've bought the best stills. They're using the best products. They're using high ingredient products. They're using high quality ingredients for what they're making. And the range of products that they released, which I actually have a little card here, because I've since fallen in love with Sleeman and Sons and what they're producing. But I got a little tasting card. This is the mat that they had set up for the tasting when we were there at Whisky Wonderland. But obviously nothing they have yet is old. So it's all 3 years that they're releasing, because they started making it a few years ago, and then they just opened the doors once they hit 3 years and started selling it. But the quality of their product for the age of it and for their experience into it is nothing short of phenomenal. And their goal really is to create American bourbon and make it here in Canada. And again, very young spirits, but the taste behind it is fantastic. And their whole story. So John Sleeman, the owner of Sleeman's, was there, and he's telling his story. And the story includes how they started making beer, how they started making whiskey. And he had this notebook in his hands. And this notebook was the recipe card of how they make their stuff, right? And he handed it around, and everyone got to touch it and look at it and hand it around the room. And
I've got a picture of Les leafing through it there, so maybe we can throw that up in the podcast.
Send it on. I'll add it to the vid.
But for me, that experience ended up being the highlight of the entire event. And I got to connect with the sons. I got to talk to John and hear their stories and really understand what it is they're doing and what they're trying to achieve. And I was blown away by that experience and truly loved it. In fact, we connected with Cooper, who's in charge of their marketing, and he's kind of running the show there. And he's lined up a distillery tour for Steve and I to come check the place out, and just amazing people trying their best to make a really good product right here in Ontario, Canada. And I love every single thing that they're doing. And that to me was hands down the biggest surprise of Whisky Wonderland, is that these guys are doing something phenomenal. They're still really young, but take it 5, 10, 15 years from now, what are they going to be producing? I expect there's going to be magic coming out of that place.
Yeah.
I would echo that. I really appreciated their presentation. You could see their passion, especially John himself. One of the things that stuck out in my mind is that they have their own cooperage. So they sent the youngest son to Scotland to learn that skill, and he brought it back with him here to Canada, and he's making his own barrels. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool little point.
One of the barrels that he made a barrel out of cherry wood. And he said he broke about 100 staves trying to make this barrel because, cherry is not something that you historically make barrels out of. But one of the samples they had was a whiskey that was finished in this cherry barrel that he had made directly himself. And I think they had made the claim that they're the only distillery in Canada, for sure, maybe North America, that has an in-house cooper working directly at the distillery. So super, super cool things that they're doing there.
So Les, if I can just make 2 small corrections.
Please do. Please do.
Obviously Gretzky, does have the cooperage there as well.
Well, he's not
so
a cooper. They recoup. They don't create the barrels.
Maybe okay, maybe if you and then secondly, Spring Mill. Earlier on, when you were introducing it, you said Springbank.
Yeah, thank you. So that one is really important. So feel free to cut. If you can cut out where I say Springbank entirely, that would be great. Otherwise, fix that one up. I knew it was Spring something.
Spring Mill Distillery in Guelph.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny. I was talking to Cooper a few days ago, and I didn't say the name of the product just because it's like I know it's Spring something, but I can't remember exactly what it is, and I don't want to say it wrong to the guy running the things.
Yeah, I think so. The name of the distillery is Spring Mill, and then John Sleeman and Sons is the website, and I think the company behind Spring Mill Distillery.
Yeah, but love what they're doing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. They were very interesting to talk to. I loved talking to Quinn and Cooper both after the tasting. You don't get a lot of time during these events to hop into these chats, and I definitely want to go back and chat with him as well.
Spring Mill, fantastic.
Your thumbs up, come on.
Yeah. So on Canada Corner, what have you guys got? What distilleries are we highlighting today?
Well, I'm going outside the box. Menard Gin. So this is a gin maker in Quebec, I believe. I was introduced to this by my brother and a friend. Neither of them are particularly gin drinkers, but they said, if you're out in Quebec or Ottawa, where we were, get a bottle of this, buy me a bottle of this, buy extra bottles because it's delicious. It retails for around 70 something dollars. Having nosed it, smells like gin, but the flavor is delicious. I really enjoyed it.
But is this just for people, like often you've got the juniper, like all gins have the juniper note, but you can have citrus forward gins, you can have cucumber forward gins. Where does this one lie?
Okay, so if we're doing just blindly on my taste buds, I'll tell you in a moment, because everything on this bottle is in French. And I haven't done anything in French since grade 9, 10, so I'm a little rusty.
Ça va?
Ça va bien.
That's good. That's good. We'll take it.
Yeah, so you get those piney juniper notes. Then you have a real light floral taste. It's not overpowering like a hand soap or anything crazy like that. It's so subtle, and that pininess doesn't hit you in the face. That juniper, it's light and lingering on the palate as the finish. It's really, really enjoyable. It's nothing that's going to break the bank, I would say. It's not something that's going to be really divisive. I think this is a crowd pleaser for a gin. But once again, I'm not typically a gin guy. I've had a few, but this one really enjoyable. A little bit of citrus there. I think it would
Very
make
nice.
a knockout gin and tonic if you wanted to get to that too.
I thought that was the only reason gin existed, was for the gin and tonic too. Does it have other purposes?
No, well, I think just like any spirit, ultimately there's sipping gins as well. Maybe less so, if we're whiskey
I have
and
not
rum.
yet found a gin that I've enjoyed.
So I found one, but
Ultimately,
we're talking Canadian corner, and it's the U.S. one,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm
so-
gonna skip it. But
yeah.
there are some.
well, I was
One
going
of
to say
your
that
compadres in Brantford has a few bottles of this, Steve and Les.
Yeah.
So
Hope to
you
hit
should
them
be
up.
able to- you should
Oh, yeah.
I
hit
was
'em
going to
up.
say that the Whiskey Tribe did a whole thing on gin. So if you want, you can go check out their video. But they did a whole thing about gin where they walked through some, lower entry gins and then really up into some more expensive sipping gins. So it does exist, and maybe it's just more about education.
Maybe
Yeah, so
Les,
Les,
Do some up,
Les,
man.
you've only had the monopoly of gins. That's why.
Yeah, that's true.
maybe
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, like I'll keep trying them. I just have not found one yet.
So what have you guys poured?
All right, so I think everyone that's watched our channel has seen that we have a pretty good relationship with Tim Wilson over at Wayne Gretzky's, and
Okay.
so the one where we've had is now Tim will always say they don't source their whiskey, they have partnerships. So, and I
They
think what he
contract
means
distill.
by that is they go to a larger player that can produce the whiskey, but it's exclusively for them that they then use. So we're enjoying the double oak, which I actually do quite enjoy, and it is really good in an old fashioned. But anything that they're putting out in their signature series
Mhm.
is top notch, will rival anyone out there. And they're coming out next month, I think it is in April, with their 4-grain.
4-grain was good.
In August, September, I think it is. They're coming out with their ginger, which is just like, oh my word, I melt every time I have
do
it.
too. And it gets
So
better
good.
every
So
time I try it
unique.
as well. So good. So good.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
fantastic.
the stuff that Wayne Gretzky is putting out, and it's not, I think a lot of people shy away from it because of the celebrity name, and because historically a lot of celebrities are slapping their name on something on a bottle and it's just thrown out there. But that's not the case at Wayne Gretzky with a lot of their new stuff that they're bringing out, their signature series, their single grains. It's so tasty.
Even the basic red
Mm.
label has gotten a bit better from where it started. Like
Mhm.
I remember having it when it first released and thinking, this is terrible. Tried it again 6 or 7 months ago. It's like, yeah, this is actually it's not too bad, especially for the price.
Yeah. Just to clarify, people, that ginger whiskey is not a ginger flavored whiskey. What Tim did was he created a ginger beer recipe, created his own ginger beer recipe, and then seasoned some casks with that ginger beer, and then aged whiskey in those ginger beer casks. And
Finished
we're
it in the casks.
definitely all
Yeah, like crazy good.
we're definitely all looking forward to that release. He's definitely been showcasing it around at all of the events, and it's gonna sell out very quickly when it gets released for sure.
And this is where I made a mistake when he did the Oats limited release, because I had bought a bottle, drank it really quickly with. I took it camping and disappeared that camping weekend with the group we were with. But then it's like the oats are gone. There's no more
Yeah.
getting the oats. So with the ginger, when that releases, I'm definitely snatching up a few bottles right away to hang on to it because it's something special.
And another thing Gretzky's doing is their RTDs,
Mhm.
ready to drink cocktails. My wife and I, we really enjoyed their whiskey sour that they had last year. And I think it was actually an older whiskey that was in it. Tim can correct me if he wants, but I think he said it was a 7-year-old 100% corn whiskey. So that was really tasty. And he said their next RTD that they're bringing out is a whiskey peach smash. So I can't wait to try that.
Yeah, I can't wait to try that either. Yeah, that one's going to be really good.
Tim definitely did recently do another interview talking about those RTDs. So what I'll do is I'll leave a link to the show notes with an actual interview with Tim regarding those RTDs, just for our listeners to get more information. For me, on Canada Corner here, I am going to Ottawa. Can you guys guess the distillery?
North of 7?
Yes. Yes, well done.
Job,
I
Steve.
have got a bottle of North of 7 here. This is a corn wheat barley mash bill, barrel 69 at 64.4% from Ottawa. And North of 7 does a really great job of their whiskeys as well. Especially, I really love their higher proof bottlings as well. And this particular one, initially, generically, I would say it smells a lot like cognac. Has those caramel and sort of very desserty characteristics as well. Some oak, but it's not overly oaked because I'm particularly sensitive to oak, but I actually kind of enjoy the oak in this. And another thing is you get to taste the grain. You can, not that you can individually identify the corn, wheat, and barley, but I would say there is a really nice, characteristic. It's not so much the wheat, probably more the corn. I would say, I think because the corn is presented first in the bottling, there is probably more corn than wheat or barley. And so the grain that you're smelling and tasting is probably corn. But it's very nice. And I would highly recommend anyone in the Ottawa area go visit them, go support them, buy a bottle, and actually buy a bottle online. Right? Don't be afraid of getting it shipped. Support your local Canadian distilleries. North of 7 is also a great option, as well as Gretzky. And I think because I don't speak French, as a South African, French was not one that I ever took as a second language. I do find it difficult to learn about our French Canadian distilleries. I definitely think we need to make a larger effort, or I need to make a larger effort in that area. Learning about, because there's probably like 50 distilleries in Quebec that could probably be really good. I've definitely had some in 407 at Whisky Wonderland both last year and this year. But I can't remember the names because I just don't have a mind for French, and I need to make a bigger effort in that area.
Yeah, I think there's a whole untapped area of Canada in a way for a lot of the English speakers.
Yeah,
definitely want to explore that a bit more.
Well, I think we're definitely coming up against our hard stop here. I really want to thank Tabletop Tastings, Les and Steve. Thanks for coming on, guys. This was a wonderful chat. We wish you guys all the best with Tabletop Tastings. Hopefully, now that you've hit 1,000 subscribers, you'll hit 2,000 subscribers, by the end of the year or within 6 months. And hopefully it just gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And keep up that great job with your whiskey and board games. I think I really love the channel. Also want to thank Joel, and we hope Bobby is feeling better very quickly. Sláinte.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much, Kevin, for having us on.
Fun,
Thank
man.
you, Joel, as well, for chatting with us. We enjoy that. Do want to just give a little plug as well. We did just cross 1,000 subs, and to celebrate that, we played the board game Distilled, which is about making whiskey and spirits. And I don't think there's a board game that better captures that side of the whiskey world than Distilled. It's a phenomenal board game. We paired that with Hard Truth out of Indianapolis, a fantastic bourbon as well, or whiskey. Do they call it a bourbon or is it a whiskey?
No, it's a sour mash whiskey.
Sour mash whiskey.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But this was an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah.
If you ever want to have us on again, hit us up, and we'd love to join you. This was an absolute blast. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you, Joel.
Definitely.
There's one
Sure,
thing we
we'll
love
see you
to
guys
do
again.
is talk about whiskey and talk about board games. So you might not be able to stop us. So.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.